Well, hello, sports fans. July 2nd, 2025, and the Mets are not in first place. Nope. The Mets are not in first place. Seth Kamens. He needs a second. Seth Kamens needs a second. Sean Palmer here, Seth and Sean Sports, and the Mets are in second place. Once again, I am losing yet another bet at the end of June. The Mets go 3-13. Yes, 3-13 in their last 16 games to close out the month of June, where they fall 2 games behind the Phillies. So I think my tally is now up to $40 that I owe you. I'll make it back. I'll make it back because I did win the NBA draft. Not surprising, truth be told. I know. I totaled. I totaled 63 points, and you totaled 61. So close enough. I had some major hits, being Mr. Behringer going to Minnesota. Yes. You had some decent hits with Mr. Fleming going to Utah. Obviously, I got Ace Bailey right. I just didn't know where he was going in the 5th pick of the draft. We're going to get to all the things NBA draft, but just now, according to Shams, and we take a lot from Shams, the Knicks are expected to hire Mike Brown as head coach. Your thoughts?
It's about as good as you were going to do. I still have this echo issue. You don't hear it?
Nope. Don't hear the echo.
Okay. Then I'll just let it be. But this is.
Well, now I can't hear you at all, so that's not helpful. Not sure what that's about. I agree. This is the best that they could have hoped for. There was nothing more after they were turned down by Jason Kidd. They were turned down, or not necessarily by Jason Kidd, but by the Mavericks, turned down by every single other team. Really a weird situation in which the Knicks didn't have, well, they thought they were going to get permission because we are the great New York Knicks. And then, right, well, that's what I'm saying. They didn't have a plan.
There was no plan. There was just, we're going to fire. We think we can find someone who's a better fit for this team. And I understand, okay, we're going to reach out. See if we can get Tyler. See if we can get Jason. Out to get Billy Donovan. What the hell is Billy Donovan?
I am hoping that the mic for you is better than what I just raised your volume on your mic, because I'm hoping that it's coming across better.
I've been telling you this for 6 weeks.
No, I can't even hear you. I'm hearing you as a whisper, not an echo, but a whisper. But anyway, yeah, they definitely did not have a plan, but I think the key was they believed that they had gone as far as they could with Thibodeau, and that was it. Like, anything was going. Okay, so now you're back. Now I'm hearing you a lot better. But I think that's where it basically came down to, is they said, okay, this is where we are. We want to be here. We have absolutely, and we've talked about this for a number of weeks, we don't think we can get there with Tom. That's it. So anything is better than nothing at this point, because otherwise we're being stagnant, and we need to show some improvement. I think the Knicks had a really good free agency. Now, the best part is free agency technically started today, and it's basically over already.
Right.
But, I mean, there's maybe 2 or 3 players still available. I know Russell Westbrook is still looking for a job. But the fact is, most of free agency occurred in the last 36 hours. And the Knicks getting the one guy I wanted the Knicks to get actually went to the Cavs. I'll get to that in a second. But the Knicks getting Jordan Clarkson, a very good deal for the Knicks. After the buyout, them getting Jasarin Yasabuli, a big guy that can play down low. He's a tank. He's like Lucas Dort. I mean, he may be 6'8", but he can play bigger.
I really like that pickup. I think it was 2 years. I really like that pickup. I think it was 2 years. Clarkson, I understand. Because you needed some offense off. It'll be how old I am, Vinny Johnson. Bring offense. But I'm also curious to see how he'll fit. Because when he was coming off the bench in Utah, he was almost the number one offensive option.
That's right.
He's never going to be that.
That's true. But the thing is, he's always, in the last 5 years, he's been put in a ridiculous situation where it's, you have to be good, but the team has to suck. So how is that going to work, right? Go get yours, but at the end of the game, make sure that you don't hit any shots because we need to lose. And I don't feel that that's a great situation for any athlete to be in. So I'm interested to see in his limited minutes, and they will be limited. My understanding is that the Knicks are going to start Deuce McBride next year. So it's Brunson and McBride at the backcourt, and Josh Hart coming off the bench along with Clarkson, and now Yasabule, who plays in the Precious Ochoa position at this point. Look, I mean, you're if you get a coach that actually plays the bench, the Knicks are 9 deep now.
I also think play the point guard for Marquette.
Oh, Tyler Novick. Yep.
I didn't understand why he got no burn whatsoever. Unless you really want to burn Brunson out.
Well, nobody got burned. Remember, it's Thibodeau. Nobody got burned.
Right. So you have Robinson off the bench. You have Humbili. You have Clarkson. You have Josh Hart.
And you have Yasabule. You got four guys. So you got Yasabule. Well, if you play Kovac, yeah. You got Yasabule, right? You got Robinson, you got Hart, and you got Clarkson. Those are your 4 guys off the bench.
30 seconds ago.
Right. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you. Okay. So we can go down each of these teams and say who won and who lost, and that would take forever. But there are 2 teams that really, really got it for me. Number 1, the Atlanta Hawks. I am not sure how they did it, but wow, this team looks great. This team looks like a team that can actually play with Trae Young and win. And I didn't think that was actually possible. The 2 things that the Hawks needed was offense when Trae Young was on the bench, and defense when Trae Young was on the court. It's a huge right? It's like a juxtaposition here. But getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker, getting Luke Kennard, and getting Kristaps Porzingis is the best player that Trae Young has ever played with. This is like the Patrick Ewing. He is the best player that he has ever played with. So now you're running a front court of Porzingis, Jalen Johnson, and Luke Kennard, and a backcourt of Dyson Daniels. Yeah.
You have starting at the 3.
Well, you could have him starting at the 3. I mean, they have an abundance of different players that can play that position now. I mean, if you look at the Hawks depth chart right now, right? I'm just getting that up right quick. Trae Young, Dyson Daniel. Oh, they have Okonwe at the center. You could and they also have Reese Shea. They could also play the 3. Like they have talent. This team could.
You had the number 1 pick in the draft.
Right, but the number 1 pick in the draft wouldn't have played as much if he wasn't the number 1 pick in the draft last year. Like part of the thing is he wasn't ready last year. He played a lot because he was the number 1 pick. He didn't play a lot because he deserved it. So if you put Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Porzingis, and Okongwu, and your back 5 is Kennard, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Reece Shea, Asa Newell. That's a good 9. They would be in the top 4 for me of the Eastern Conference right now.
Yeah, I don't think I have them high, but I can certainly see it.
They're certainly out of the play-in game.
Yes.
And entering free agency, I would not have put them there. No way.
I think the top three off the top of my head are Cleveland, New York, probably Detroit.
No. How about Orlando?
Orlando. Yeah. There's a third team I'm forgetting. I'm just forgetting off the top of my head. But yeah, Orlando looks. I'm just forgetting off the top.
I mean, I'm a big believer in what Orlando did, getting Tyus Jones and Desmond Bane, and all they lost was Cole Anthony, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Gary Harris. With Wagner and Panchero both healthy, I think this is a top 3 team in the East. Now, that assumes everybody's healthy except for Philly, who is never healthy. And, I mean, so the other team that I really liked what they did, and again, there are several teams that I liked what they did, but if we're looking for a team that you're saying, man, they upped their ante, that is your Denver Nuggets. And your Denver Nuggets being from your Brooklyn Nets. I love what this team did. And let me tell you why. This team came into free agency as a very close to second apron team. Okay? They had very little room to do anything. Okay? Very little room to do anything. So anything that they did had to take salary off in order to add salary. So when you look at their team, they could trade one of 3 guys. Jokic wasn't going anywhere. Murray couldn't go anywhere, not with a $50 million salary, or Michael Porter Jr., who had $37 million. Well, if you look around the league, they basically went to the Nets, gave the one pick that they could trade, which is a 2032 lottery ticket, which actually is a lottery ticket. Look, I think the Nets did very well in this deal, too. Don't get me wrong.
Let's get signed.
Right. And they traded Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson, which is basically just a swap of the same player. I think that they are pretty equal. And if Denver had just sat on their hands and that was it, they would have been $10 million less because it was $17 million less. It was 37 versus 20. So they would have gotten, so they were out of the tax, and they would have been like, okay, we're good. If that's all that they did, they would have been ridiculed by me on this show, because that would have been wasting away Nikola Jokic's last couple of years just for money. But they didn't. They took that money and they went and said, okay, we're gonna replace our mistake from last year, which is Dario Saric, who earned $5 million. So we're going to take that $17 million savings, and we're going to spend 5 of it because Jonas Valanciunas makes $10 million to Saric's 5. We're going to put in an extra 5 there. We're going to sign Tim Hardaway Jr. to a minimum contract, and then we're going to sign Bruce Brown to a minimum contract. Seth, there are 2 things that were problematic with Denver this year. One, when Jokic went off the court, they had nobody to play the middle. Nobody. By the way, they also get back Deron Holmes, who was out all year with an Achilles injury, their first round pick last year. So they swapped out Dario Saric, who never played, and Michael Porter Jr., and instead of those guys, so they subbed out one guy that played, and they added 4. That is good business. And all they did was give up a 2032 pick that when Nikola Jokic is 38 years old, nobody's going to give a damn.
You know my feelings on
this was This was amazing business, and to the point that while the Thunder are still number 1 seed next year, they are. Mm-hmm. This team almost beat them the way that they were. And now they have a bench.
Yep.
If this team is healthy and Jokic is Jokic,
Yep.
they're right there. And if you're the Nets acquire another asset for that guy in Milwaukee if he ever wants to go anywhere. They acquire another asset. Which we're not talking about Damian Lillard? No, which is actually a really good asset because Jokic will be 38. Well, we'll get to Damian Lillard in a second. And they got Michael Porter Jr., who will probably average 23 to 24 points because he's going to get 1,000 shots. And they might be able to flip him again at the deadline for another first-round pick because they certainly don't need him.
No.
And they're looking to bottom out too. Porter's got this year and next year. And I got to tell you, that guy can't be happy going from the Nuggets to the Nets. That's not there.
I think the other thought is going to be the number one option for the first time. And if that's important, I don't know. I also think there's a very good chance, as you said, he gets flipped. He can be the number 3 on a championship caliber team. We've seen it. He can be the number 3 on a championship caliber team. We've seen it.
He can, but he's making $37 million, and $37 million is not a number, except on Denver, doesn't exist as a number 3 on another team. That's the big problem with him. Is he was earning $2 million. We just said he and Cam Johnson are basically the same player, right? Yeah. Well, Cam's earning half of what he was earning.
Yeah.
So what other team is taking on a $37 million number 3 option? I mean, maybe Dallas? I'm just looking at what teams would have that. By the way, Dallas can't afford him either. So I'm good on the Nuggets. Okay, the guy that I really wanted the Knicks to get, and I've been wanting the Knicks to get for a couple of years, is Larry Nance Jr. I just think he would have been perfect for that team as a backup 5 and just playing off the ball, not needing the ball. That was the guy that I was hoping that they would get. The Cavs re-signed Sam Merrill. They get Lonzo Ball. You got to root for Lonzo Ball. It's funny how his narrative has turned so much from the guy that you really didn't like coming out of school because of his dad.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with him.
No, but I'm saying the whole family, right? You didn't want to root for Lonzo Ball. Then Lonzo Ball gets hurt and could have taken his ball and gone home with $80 million. And he's like, nah, I'm gonna come back. The key is, can Lonzo Ball have a Sean Livingston career? And I think if he plays 20 to 25 minutes and they watch his knees, he can. And Sean Livingston had a really good career. He won 3 titles.
So you meant?
Yeah.
Right. Can you give me that you don't?
Well, we can talk about Milwaukee all day long. We can talk. Look, short term, I think Milwaukee did great with what they had. Long term, this is a cluster of epic proportions, and we'll get into why in a second. I don't understand the last 2 weeks of what New Orleans did. I have no clue about that, and that starts with your boy Derek Queen. By the way, I also did not point out that I love what Houston did, but I'll get to that in a second. So one team I can't understand is the New Orleans Pelicans. So New Orleans trades C.J. McCollum and Kelly Olynyk and gets back Jordan Poole, who now 2 teams have paid to get rid of. Don't understand that fit with Zion all that well. They signed Kevon Looney. I always say Kevin, but it's Kevon Looney. I think that's a good signing.
Well, Kevon Looney's a nice player.
No, I like that signing for 2 years. They get Sadiq Bey in the trade. I like that. I don't understand. They moved up 10 spots, and they traded next year's unprotected pick. Look, they had the better of the Bucks are theirs, and that swap, and they traded the better of it. You make that trade when you make that trade when you have this is the last piece, or you make that trade.
When you're one player away.
Even 2 players away. They're like 12 players away. They have, Joe Dumars has wrecked another franchise. Congratulations. And he did it in record time.
What is it with the 80s Detroit teams not being able to manage?
Look, at least Joey D keeps his hands to himself. I mean, at least, right?
Yeah, I don't get it.
And he hasn't signed Bill Laimbeer to be his coach.
Yeah, I don't get it. I love Derek. You cannot trade an unprotected one. You cannot trade an unprotected one.
You cannot trade an unprotected one if you are
drafted.
Seth, unless it is Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper, you cannot trade an unprotected one. Not that team.
No. You're not. This isn't. You're not. Oklahoma City trading it. It's going to go 26 or 27. This is a team that may be in the lottery. Probably will be.
Not maybe. Every single thing has to go right for that team to make the playoffs. Think about this. They are not in the East. They are in the West. Right, but that's my point, right? You could sneak into the East. You can sneak in certainly into the play-in game in the East. If we look at this, right? How on God's green earth do they play where they are in what they're doing? Like, where are they better than any of these teams? Where are they better than Oklahoma City, Houston, the Lakers, Denver, the Clippers, Minnesota, Golden State, Memphis, or Dallas? They're not. That puts them at number 10 going against Phoenix, Sacramento, and San Antonio for one spot. And we know San Antonio is going to be really, really, really good. I don't get it. I don't. Joe Dumars has ruined another franchise. Okay. Speaking of ruining another franchise, the Phoenix Suns. Okay. So here is props to the Phoenix Suns. I have liked what they have done to get out of the mess that they were in. I don't like the mess that they were in, but they have done the best that they could do. Getting Jalen Green, getting Dylan Brooks, I like that deal for them. I like the fact that they were able to acquire the first-round pick and got the center from Duke. I don't like the fact that they then traded another first-round pick from Mark Williams, but now the biggest problem that they had going into the draft was... Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said I think that deal had been consummated before they picked Luke. I don't think they expected him to be there.
No, agreed. Yeah, and then you have Portland, who trades Anthony Simons, drafts a guy from China to play center, and trades for Drew Holiday, which we talked about last week, and then buys out DeAndre Ayton. Man, how much do you have to hate DeAndre Ayton and think he is a cancer on your club to buy him out with 1 year? Like, he's an expiring contract, and they bought him out. I mean, we can talk about Damian Lillard's buyout in a second, but they bought out a guy on an expiring contract, and they did not need the salary room. They just did it. And I will take the mea culpa here. I will take the I'm sorry. Because on this show 4 years ago, I said DeAndre Ayton was not only the best contract in the NBA, but was the most underrated player in the NBA when he played in the finals. But I wasn't the only one, because the Pacers signed him to a max offer sheet, and Phoenix matched it. So, and then Portland picked him up in the trade. I was not the only one that thought that. But man, this guy has... I really just want him to go to the Lakers, Seth. I just want to see how that'll work out.
That's probably where I end up. Yeah, he is seemingly as disliked as any player in the NBA. There's a lot of stuff I don't really like. I don't like Jakob Poeltl.
4 years.
$100 million. What does that team do?
Well,
we have Ingram, who is at $40 million a year. Scotty Barnes on practice. But I don't know if they match him. You have RJ Barrett who's at a high contract. That team feels like it's been nowhere.
No, I agree with that. I think the thing about Toronto's in an interesting place. There was a good article on The Athletic where it's always been known that if you come to Toronto, you will be taken care of. And players accept trades to Toronto and don't force their way out of Toronto because they get taken care of. And we see that with Brandon Ingram, right? We've seen that with Kyle Lowry. We see that with Jakob Poeltl. This is the second time he's been taken care of. And over and over again, you could say RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quigley. It's not an easy place to be traded to. So you need, especially with the tax rate, you need something to say, this is a good idea. And I'll accept this and I won't create a problem. Now, I'm not sure if Jakob Poeltl would be a person that would create a problem. I have no idea. But they traded him away and then traded for him again. So obviously they like him a lot. And I still think they might still owe that first round pick to San Antonio, having him back. But I think that's the big thing about Toronto is the fact that they take care of their own. And no, I don't understand this team in general. But can they make the playoffs? They can. That team could certainly make the playoffs.
They could, but it's not a threat anymore.
So here's my question to you. Indiana, assuming they had Miles Turner and assuming they had Tyrese Halliburton, which they do not, we're going to go in next year as the number one, right? In the East. Okay. And after that was a cluster of 3 or 4 teams, right? Okay. And after that was a cluster of 3 or 4 teams, and after that were the 5 teams that didn't want to, that are tanking. So if you're Toronto and you're in that second cluster of 3 or 4 teams, and now the number 1 team is not the number 1 team anymore because they lost, I don't know, the best point guard in the Eastern Conference, and they lost their number 1 center, which is going to be replaced by Tony Bradley and Obi Toppin as a starting center. Why, if you are Toronto, do you not say, why can't I make a run? I mean, I think that's the thing, that you look at the Eastern Conference, and truthfully, I think this is why Giannis doesn't want out of the Eastern Conference, is why do you not say, why can't I make a run here? None of these teams are really that good, and they're right. And I'm a Knicks fan.
Would you take Toronto over the Knicks?
Of course not.
Would you take Toronto over Cleveland?
Of course not.
Would you take Toronto over Orlando?
No, but can they win? Can they? Last year, would I have taken Indiana over any of those teams? No, and I wouldn't have taken them over the Celtics either.
You also wouldn't have taken them over the Celtics if Tatum. Oh, I guess to be fair, the Knicks may very well win every series.
I guess my point is, last year I wouldn't have taken, not this past year, last year I wouldn't have taken Indiana to make the finals. Not in a million years. Right? Make the Eastern Conference Finals. This year I wouldn't have, we both didn't take Indiana to make the finals. And they made the finals. Right. My point is, this is not. You have a three-headed monster in the West, right? You got Houston, you got Denver, you got Oklahoma City. Those are your three, right? And there is a very sharp decline after those three teams.
I disagree. I think there's more teams that are better. I think Minnesota's still really good. I think Dallas is actually really interesting. I think the top 7 teams in the NBA right now are in the West.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying how many teams are and then there's the cliff? 4? 5?
Say 5. 6.
So who's the fifth team? I agree. Minnesota, I could see. Who's your fifth team on that cliff?
Just kind of looking quick.
Can't be Dallas.
Dallas.
You can't have Dallas without Kyrie. You can't assume this.
Kyrie will be back by the end of the year.
You presume.
I presume he will be back. And then you're going to have a starting five of Irvin.
Oh, Kyrie, Clay, Flag, Lively, and AD.
Or Davis and Will.
No. I agree. If they are all healthy, they are formidable. They are. I would not take that team over any of the other 4 because I don't think. I don't think they'll be healthy. I don't think any of them are going to be healthy, but and history proves that. But the fact is, I get what you're saying. So you have 5 and then a cliff. In the East, you don't even have a cliff because you don't have anybody. So if we're going back to where Toronto was. If you're Toronto and you're saying there's nobody even on that cliff, nobody. Why do I care? I can make a run. Any of those teams. Would you be surprised if any team in the East, other than the Wizards, who definitely will not make a run, the Nets, who will not make a run? Okay, let's go with those 2.
Who's the third one? Charlotte?
And Charlotte. Yeah, would you be surprised if you had a run by any of those teams? Oh, and Chicago. Let's go with Chicago too.
I don't think Milwaukee.
Okay, so 4 teams. So any other of those teams, would you be shocked if any of the other 8 teams are in the Eastern Conference Finals next year? No. So, look, I don't agree with it, but that's why Milwaukee makes the move that they made. If Tyrese Halliburton is not hurt, Miles Turner is not, in my opinion, not on the Milwaukee Bucks. First of all, he is on the Pacers, and the Pacers are in the tax. Because the Pacers made a move during the NBA Finals to prepare to go into the tax. And I truly, by trading their first-round pick and kicking it down the road, I truly believe that if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't get hurt, and they are rolling this entire team back next year, Miles Turner is also on that team.
Probably.
I do. All right, so let's talk about these Milwaukee Bucks. So I heard a good explanation for why this works. I buy it for the next 2 years. I don't buy it for years 3, 4, and 5, but I buy it for the next 2 years. Okay. So for the next 2 years, okay, let's roll this back. Why are we talking about this? Yesterday, the Milwaukee Bucks decided that they were going to release and stretch the salary of Damian Lillard, who is out probably all of next year with a torn Achilles. And what that means is the $52 million that salary that he has for the next 2 years gets stretched for a 5-year period. That for $20 million apiece, and that will stay on the cap. By the way, that also cannot be traded. This is not the NHL where you can trade that. You cannot trade it, and it is not subject to set-off. So if he signs for $5 million with the Lakers next year, he still earns his $20 million plus 5. He gets a very minor set-off. This was, it's not a dollar for dollar. This was confirmed by Bobby Marks this morning. My pal, Bobby Marks.
Did you
So
correct?
I did not correct him. I asked him a very specific question. It's good to have guys on speed dial. Okay, so that's why we're talking about this. Now, here's the explanation. So for the next 5 years, the Bucks will have a $20 million charge on their cap and no player associated with that $20 million charge. So basically, if the NBA teams are operating at a $180 million cap, the Bucks are operating at 160.
Yes.
It's just that simple. It's just that simple. So, that's where we are today. So, the explanation that I heard from John Hollinger this morning on a podcast, it makes sense, is for the next 2 years, the Bucks were going to be paying Damian Lillard $50 million, right? Mm-hmm. And next year, he likely was not going to play. So that $50 million was going to be spent no matter what. Now, they are paying the same $50 million for the next 2 years, but Turner is going to be on the roster.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't account for the next 3 years where he's... The kicker is, the beauty behind all this is the Bucks, give the Bucks credit. They go for it. They go for it all the time. They traded for Drew Holiday. They gave away 4 first-round picks. They traded for Damian Lillard. They gave up 4 first-round picks. Now they traded Miles. They got Miles Turner. The kicker is they are just barely finishing off trading the first-round picks for Drew Holiday. They haven't even started paying off the first-round picks for Damian Lillard, and those will be paid off when Miles Turner's contract ends. So they are the equivalent of the New Orleans Saints. We kick the can down the road perpetually until we can't kick it anymore. And that may be when Giannis retires. And you know what? I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with that if I'm a Bucks fan too. Because the Bucks have had 2 top 50 players in their franchise history. Oscar doesn't count. I don't consider him a Buck. Right. They have drafted and curated 2 top 50 players of all time. The first one was Lou Alcindor, now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they won a championship with him. And then they lost him for, believe it or not, the wealthiest ex-basketball player of all time. Yeah, I know. But he made like $600 million outside of basketball. But he was not a productive basketball player.
He was a nice player.
He was a 10-point-a-game player. He was not... Right. Okay, fair enough. But they lost Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and did not win another championship for 40 years when they curated a guy named Giannis. And they won another championship. And now they're at the same inflection point as they were with Kareem. Except Giannis hasn't asked out. And the concept that you should have if you are an NBA team is if you happen to curate a player like this, you don't look to trade that player. Ever. The next time that Giannis should step out of
Okay, I don't know what happened to Mr. Palmer. Man, we have so many issues with this damn website.
My internet slowed down. Sorry.
Okay. So the idea being when you are a small market and you have a superstar, until he tells you he does not want to play anymore in that area, you do not preemptively trade him. Is that where you're going with this?
Right. That's where I'm going with this. You don't even think about it. You say, thank you very much. How much money can I give you? And that's it. And that's what the Mavericks did with Dirk. That's what the Lakers did with Kobe. That's what the Bulls should have done with Jordan, but they didn't. That's what you do. And That's what the Knicks should have done with Ewing. I mean, except Ewing wanted out, and he said he wanted out, and they let him go. And to this day, he says that was the biggest regret he had, was saying, I want out, because he never should have left. Ever. Okay. So, the Bucks return. We just spoke about this, they get Miles Turner. They agree with Gary Harris. Okay, this is not Gary Harris from 10 years ago. This is Gary Harris from 2025. He's a bench player. They get a trade for Micevic, who I think has been traded 4 or 5 times and still is going to go to Europe. So it really doesn't matter, for Pat Connaughton. They agreed to terms with Bobby Portis, a 3-year deal.
I like that.
Taurean Prince.
I actually like that.
I love the deal because he's Naz Reid at 44 for 4, not 125 for 5. Taurean Prince for 2 years, Jericho Sims for 2 years, and Gary Trent Jr. for 2 years. None of those are bad deals in a vacuum.
No.
But this is your team for the next 2 years. They do not have room.
And you are pretty much your team on Kevin Porter Jr.
Who 3 teams have already said thank you, but no thank you.
Correct.
Look, in a vacuum, Miles Turner is probably the best player to play next to Giannis in the NBA.
You're talking at the 5?
I'm talking about a guy that you put at the 5, period, that will play well with Giannis, stylistically, because he will pick and pop at the 3-point line. He will get out of Giannis's way. He will draw the center out, and he blocks shots, which means he plays on the interior defense. He is Brook Lopez 5, 6, 7 years ago. He is Brook Lopez, except just a better version at this point. So, stylistically, this is going to work. Stylistically, I think this is great. But Seth, my concern is they are banking on Kyle Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. And no bench. None. And Giannis needs to be Superman. Now, could Giannis lead this team to the playoffs? Certainly.
Sure.
But that's your ceiling. To me, that's your ceiling. This is not... I actually have more confidence in Toronto than I do in this team. A lot more.
Yeah. Well, brought that up. I kind of agree with you.
Right.
I think we can get out of the first round. I don't know if we can get it to a play-in.
Well, here's where I stand on most of these teams, okay? And I think that there are probably 4 teams which don't work in this category. If there is one injury to one player, can you still make the playoffs? Now, I'm not sure if Denver can make the playoffs without Jokic.
Great.
I don't know. It's possible, though. I mean, now that they have Valanciunas, it's possible. I'm not saying they will, but I know damn well that the Bucks don't make the playoffs without Giannis.
No chance.
Can the Knicks make the playoffs without Brunson? I do believe they can.
Yes.
Can the 76ers make it without Embiid? I do believe that they can.
Who's healthy on that?
No, I'm assuming everybody else is healthy.
Yeah, if you have George, Maxey, and
my thinking is Milwaukee may be the only team in the NBA that is contingent solely their playoffs on one player.
The only other think of is in the West. The Lakers go without Luka.
I don't know, but they have a shot.
Yes.
The Bucks have no shot without Giannis.
None.
The Lakers at least have a shot with LeBron and company, right? They can make a play-in game. So I think that is where this falls flat, is that there's just not enough. the Bucks and the Nuggets are very similar, except the Nuggets have Aaron Gordon and have Jamal Murray, and the Bucks have Kevin Porter and Bobby Portis and Kyle Kuzma. They are very similar teams. So going in, let's just touch upon one or two other teams. First of all, the Grizzlies. I really liked the order in which these things happen. They announced Jaren Jackson gets a massive contract extension, and then 10 minutes later announced that he needs surgery on turf toe. I have a feeling that he didn't just walk into the signing and say, "Ooh, my toe is hurting." I got a feeling that probably happened a little bit ago. The Lakers lose Dorian Finney-Smith and get Jake LaRavia, soon to be DeAndre Ayton. Yes, please. Let's set up this cluster of epic proportions. I can't see how that helps them whatsoever. Hey, Jeannie Buss, you got out at the right time. Congratulations. That was well done. Now, LeBron picks up his option, his $52 million option. Here's the interesting part to this, Seth. Let's presume that the Lakers do absolutely nothing for the rest of free agency. And this is their team, okay? In 2026, do you know how many players are on their roster right now?
Probably two or three.
Yeah, do you know who they are?
Austin Reeves.
Nope.
I thought he signed a 4-year deal.
With a 3-year with an option, so you know he's banking out.
Doncic is a free agent. LeBron's a free agent. Hachimura?
Jake LaRavia has 1 year, and Jared Vanderbilt, and that's it. They each have 1 year. So there's no Luka, there's no LeBron, there's no Hachimura, there's none of that. So what they can do is, on August 2nd, they're going to put the extension paperwork in front of Luka, right? They're going to say, here you go, right? And at that point, they're basically telling LeBron, this is your swan song. You got 1 more year. Because we're not moving salary into next year to accommodate this year. I think that's pretty steadfast at this point. And then you go to Luka and say, okay, let's build the team, because I got $12 million on the cap and your salary. Let's go fishing. And if I'm the LA Lakers, I'm in good spirits for 2026. Because there's De'Aaron Fox hasn't signed an extension yet.
De'Aaron Fox has an extension.
Nope.
Okay. I think he's signing it. He wanted to be in San Antonio.
He's from LA.
He wanted to be in San Antonio with a team that can win a title.
Okay.
He's expecting.
He also wanted to be in San Antonio.
Expecting a 4-year.
What's that?
Yeah, he's expecting a 4-year, $230 million. Deal.
Wait, he signed it already? I thought he was eligible for it. No, he didn't sign it yet.
Wait a minute.
He's eligible for it.
De'Aaron Fox has agreed to a $140 million contract. It's legit.
Spotrac does not have that. Spotrac has that he has a $37 million contract for this year, and then he is an unrestricted free agent next year.
Okay.
And let's recall that De'Aaron Fox agreed to that deal before they had the number 2 pick in the draft. Before Dylan Harper came along.
Dylan Harper's not a point guard.
But Stephon Castle is.
I think.
I know, I may be reaching. I know.
I think you're reaching.
Okay. I'm just saying, you.
A ball heavy point guard and a shoot heavy shooting guard. Where you're going with this?
The 2026 NBA free agents. Let's go through them, shall we? Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Trae Young, James Harden, De'Aaron Fox, Porzingis, Hartenstein, Anthony Simons, Draymond Green, Fred VanVleet is he's still a free agent. Mikal Bridges, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Aaron Gordon. These are all free agents. Lucas Dort, like he can go. And remember, this is LA. They have a blank slate. What do you want?
We got a couple that might be tough.
Okay. Much the same way as I just took it on the hit for
Trae Young and Luka Doncic.
Well, I hope I really hope if we're doing that, they back it up with Lucas Dort, Mitchell Robinson, and Victor Wembanyama, who's also a free agent. I mean, obviously eligible for an extension, but I'm just saying, like, that's the only defense that's solving a Luka Doncic and Trae Young backcourt. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. First of all, I know Jake and Teo are not listening, but I hope that they have a amazing summer. Already writing the first letter, so proud of the little kid, little dude going to summer camp. Congratulations to my New York Islanders for turning over a new leaf. Oh, nice. He looks like he's having a horrible time. Horrendous. Congratulations to my New York Islanders for turning over a new leaf. Lou Lamoriello is out. 3 first-round picks are in. Not giving in 8-year deals that are ridiculous contracts. And maybe there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And it's good to be an Islander fan right now. It's good to be a Knicks fan. I'd really like not to go 3-13 in the next 16 games for the Mets. But, DeAndre Ayton coming to LA hopefully soon, because I am so looking forward to that shit show.
Okay.
So more I don't say very often. Props to New York Knicks.
Okay.
You have gone stale.
You know what? He's the best women's college basketball. And we've talked over the years, Becky Harmon, this, that, the other. And I don't know how seriously they consider it. You know what? She's successful enough that she warrants the opportunity to interview for a job of that.
100%.
Not saying they have to take her. But good for them.
Okay, but here's my problem with that. Don't publicize it. Let her say it. To me, this was an absolute shit show of a publicity stunt. I hated the fact that they released that. If she wanted to say something, I think it comes across as rotten. I really do. She wasn't. Here's the thing. She wasn't in the initial interviews. This came out yesterday.
No, it came out further back.
Not when they initially interviewed Brown. Not when they initially interviewed the Timberwolves assistant. Not when they were looking.
Sure it was.
I don't recall that. And maybe I'm wrong. It's possible. But I thought this came out yesterday.
No, I thought this came out a few days ago.
Right, well...
When were you the five top teams already out? Gotta love it.
All right, so hold on. Here you go. The Athletic reported yesterday, not considered a finalist yesterday. 1 day ago, CBS Sports says South Carolina AD says New York reached out to Dawn Staley. 1 day ago. So maybe it came out because, you know what? If the South Carolina AD is the one that released this, then good on the Knicks. And I am incorrect. Because if he's the one that reported it, then it could have happened weeks ago, and I don't know, and I am wrong. So I will take that. I will take that hit. All right. For Seth Kamens, who's over there, I'm Sean Palmer over here. Happy anniversary, my friend. Hope you have a great trip, and we'll see you with a tan and less hair in a week. All right. Have a good one, everybody.